Welcome to the world of Helldivers 2, a four-man co-op game where you drop into hell for liberty, democracy, and for super-earth. You can tell this game is heavily inspired by things like ODST and the way it deploys its troops with the highest quality orbital drop pods. You can tell this game is heavily inspired by things like Warhammer's Space Marines and Starship Troopers, with its extremely patriotic, bordering on honorable, cult-like sensibilities towards duty and its government. But mostly, you can tell this game is heavily inspired by people who love gaming, by gamers themselves, and that's who the developers over at Arrowhead Studios are at their core. They're gamers, like you and me. Their focus was to create a game of the gamers, by the gamers, and for the gamers. A game that isn't designed to melt the contents of your wallet like terminate fodder beneath an orbital napalm barrage, but to allow you to reasonably and democratically vote with your wallet to show the gaming industry what you want from your games. Helldivers 2 isn't interested in pushing any political agenda aside from that of freedom, democracy, liberty, and the ultimate galactic superiority of our home, Super Earth. So come along with me as we dive deep into what makes this game so special and arguably one of the best games released in the past 10 years of gaming. Ladies and gentlemen of Super Earth, this is Helldivers 2.
Okay, cut.
We get it?
Yep, that was perfect. Yes, perfect. Thank you, V-Tang.
Helldivers 2. Quite the game. It's been about a year now since it released, and it came out and took the gaming industry by storm. This tiny, unknown sequel game developed by a studio that up until that point only had 4 other games under their belt, one of which was the prequel, the original Helldivers game, was released to record-breaking player counts on Steam, becoming the 25th most played game ever on that platform. And currently they have about between 75,000 to 90,000 active players at peak times. Now, with all that being said, that's fine and dandy, but there's a question that I've been trying to answer since this game came out. What is at the heart of Helldivers 2? What made this game so loved? Well, here we are, a year later, and I finally have the answer. There are 3 main things that answer that question. To start off, while making this game, the developers clearly kept what they know you wanted and what you love in mind. You've probably seen videos online of Helldivers surrounded by armies of bots, bugs, and illuminate, excuse me. But they're hopelessly surrounded with no way out, and then they throw a 500k stratagem at their feet, accepting their fate, knowing that they take with them a horde of their enemies. Only at the last minute to dive off the cliff just as the bomb explodes, throwing them into a ragdoll state across the map. They land directly at Extract, right on the ramp of Pelican 1, and then victoriously soar through the sky to the sound of triumphant music.
You have maintained our way of life.
You probably thought, okay, I bet that's a 1 in a million chance. But it's not. This game guarantees that if you play it, that or something just as epic will happen to you. This game is epic fun. You feel like the hero. You feel like you're the main character of the story. And you get so many moments throughout the game that support that feeling. On top of that, the gunplay is phenomenal. It feels good. It's based off of a more realistic system that uses the 2 aiming reticles. The sounds are amazing, whether it's the sound of a futuristic space rifle throwing plasma out of its barrel, or a 500k bomb going off, and the subsequent groans of the Bile Titan that it just hit.
Almost killed me, but got him.
The game is amazing to hear. Put your headphones on, get immersed. The game is visually striking to look at. Seeing the anatomical damage, rather, to the bots, the bugs, and the aliens that you're fighting, and how that damage impacts their ability to move and attack. Like if a charger's butt gets blown off, it starts to limp instead of walking normally. And then this green alien ectoplasm begins to ooze out of the injury. If one of the voteless lose their legs, they start to crawl towards you like a mindless drone. And then, of course, there's the cult-like attitude of this universe that simultaneously leads to some of the most hilarious comedic undertones and moments in the game, but also makes you feel like you are part of a brotherhood and that you would willingly give your life for superearth. And so many Helldivers subscribe to the role-playing aspect of the game. Don't believe me? Jump into a match and load up with your friends and say, hey, you ever think we might be the bad guys? And see how quickly they tell you, face the wall. I wasn't even afforded that opportunity. My friends executed me on the spot immediately as soon as I said it. What's next? Well, next is the company's morals and values. Some game companies design games in a way so that they can just make as much money as possible, like EA Sports, FIFA.
EA Sports.
It's only a game. Why you have to be mad?
They put out another game every single year, but it doesn't have any significant updates. It might have slightly better graphics maybe, but for the most part, it's just, no, it's the same game, just reskinned. And then they put out their hand, they say, pay us another $60 please, and thank you if you want to play the game this year. I mean, it's ridiculous. These kinds of development companies, they ask questions like, what's the most popular thing that will draw the most wallets? What will make us the most money? What tactics will drive the most sales? It's ridiculous. But then you have games like Helldivers 2, development teams like Helldivers 2's Arrowheads, which was designed not to make a quick buck, but for the love of the game. You need proof? Okay. A few months ago, they had the crossover event that was in the game universe with another universe, the Killzone event, where they brought in armor and weapons and stuff like that. Now, the developers kind of fumbled introducing that crossover event. And so it made a few players upset with how it was dealt with. So what did the developers do? Did they just say, oh, well, that's too bad for you, you're just going to have to miss out? No. They said, okay, we're just going to give it to everyone for free. We messed up. Sorry, guys. What other studio does stuff like that? I can't think of a studio that is willing to admit that they messed up, let alone give away stuff for free. It just goes to show the way that they think about situations and about their players. It is different from anyone else. The developers over at Arrowheads Games Studios ask different questions. They ask, what do you want? What do you like in your games? What is best for you? I mean, look at their premium currency. It's not outrageously priced. It's a reasonable price. But more importantly than that, you can get it in-game by just playing the game. Literally, if you were to grind for maybe 2 to 3 hours, you could get about 1,000 credits, which that's their premium credits, remember? And that's enough to buy a Warbond, which is basically just a battle pass. 2 to 3 hours of grinding credits, and that's it. You're good. Now, that leads us right into the Warbonds. Let's talk about that. There is no FOMO with their Warbonds. It's not like you're going to miss out if you don't start working on it immediately. You're going to miss out on some. It's not the case. They've put these Warbonds in and they've said these will stay here forever. You can go play another game, come back a month later, the Warbonds are still there. You can go deal with other stuff that you got going on in life and not play many games for a while. You come back, the Warbond is still there. When you are ready to get to grinding for that Warbond or unlocking for that Warbond, you can then begin to do that at your own pace. No FOMO. No other studio does that. Other studios know that if they create FOMO, they create this fear that you're going to miss out. Well, all of a sudden people are digging into their wallets and pulling out wads of cash to make sure that they get all these consumables that might never again be available. That's not what the developers at Arrowhead did. And I mean, it's so rare to see a studio treat its audience, its gamers, in such a good way. I appreciate it, and I know a lot of other people appreciate it as well. Now, don't get me wrong, I know Arrowhead's Game Studios is a business. They're trying to make money, yes. But they're not trying to take advantage of us at every single turn. They're trying to make money so that they can continue to do the things they love, which is supporting this game and building other games in the future. Another great thing about them, the developers keep open communication with their community. They're constantly asking for advice or asking, how can we make the game better for you? I mean, for goodness sake, the other day, the CEO of the game, Johan Pilstead, heard the outcry from the gamers that the balancing was taking away from the fun of the game. And he doesn't want that, obviously. But at the same time, he said, balancing is like my forte. That's where I started. That's what I'm good at. And so he decided to step down from being the CEO so that he could work more hands-on with the game as opposed to overseeing the entire company. What suit is stepping down from the position of CEO so that they can get hands-on and put more into the game and make it better for the players? I can't think of any other company that does that kind of stuff. Which leads us into the final thing. How Arrowhead Studios treats you, the player. We've been through a lot since the release of the game on February 8th. We've had the highs. First 2 weeks after the release, we had the highest player count, which actually topped the charts for Steam. We've had monthly releases almost every single month for the first 8 months, aside from July in 2024. We've had some lows as well. You know, we've had the railgun nerf, and of course the PSN situation, and then also the 25 plus million lives lost at Malevelon Creek. But let's pause there for a moment. Let's talk about the history of Malevelon Creek, of the Severance sector. Because I think it's another huge example of what's at the center, what's at the heart of this game. Always makes me think of like a veteran, like,
you know, I fought at the creek. And that was no cupcake stand, son. That was a dumpster fire. And we were the raccoons lost among the blazing heaps of trash.
The creek is made up of dense jungle biomes and large bodies of water. It's also frequented or frequently visited by powerful ion storms. All these factors create a unique environment that is extremely difficult for fighting the automatons on. With the dense foliage restricting visibility and making movement difficult and causing so many more automaton ambushes than on any other planet, this is kind of where the term the trees or talking binary originated. But along with that, the large bodies of water make it very difficult to move through the map safely. Very often you'll find yourself with your back up against the water and your front facing an entire legion of automatons. Add to that fact that due to the ion storms, you don't have the stratagems that you need in order to deal with all these problems. Then all of a sudden, you have on your hands the perfect storm of circumstances that takes Malevelon Creek from being, you know, just like any other planet to being the space Vietnam of this galactic war. Malevelon Creek saw a 2-month back-and-forth campaign in which the planet was lost and regained multiple times. For many Helldivers, it was actually their first experience on the automaton front, and it acted as a baptism of fire and metal that they would never forget. I count myself as one of those Helldivers, and I can confirm that I saw many things on that creek that I'll always remember. But what I remember most was fear. Pure, unadulterated fear. Okay, so that's cool. But what does that have to do with what's at the heart of the game? Well, this random storyline side quest that didn't have anything to do with the game or any major orders was completed on April 3rd, 2024. The president of Superearth issued a decree, and I'm going to read this, which recognized that date as Malevelon Creek Memorial Day. All active Helldivers were gifted a commemorative cape to honor their fallen companions. This random storyline that wasn't created by the developers was seen by the developers, and because they understood how much it meant to the community, they added it into the game as canon. This just goes to show how this game was originally built around the idea and the concept that the players dictate the story. To this day, all the players still talk about the horrors of Malevelon Creek, and we all know that one day we're going to be diving there again. We've gotten close a few times, especially with the Illuminate coming in, but it hasn't happened yet. But we know it's coming because this game is built around the players, around you. And that's just one example. Another is when Sony decided that the players of Helldivers 2 were required to have the PSN account linked to their Steam account if they wanted to be able to play the game on PC. The developers of Arrowhead Studios, you got to realize 2 separate entities, Sony and Arrowhead Studios, came out and they outright told us that if we felt this strongly about this issue, to let democracy speak and downvote our reviews on Steam so that they could take that and have something to show to Sony as to why Sony shouldn't do this. Let's think about that for a second. A studio asked us to downvote our reviews on Steam so that they could use that as ammunition to fight for us. What other instances has that ever happened in? I can't think of studios ever putting themselves on the line to fight for their players. Maybe in some instances, and I'm just not thinking of it, but it's extremely rare. That's amazing. Months later, at the end of the year, while many of us were watching the Game Awards, and many of us weren't because, you know, it's the Game Awards, we suddenly heard the triumphant music of Superearth and saw John Helldiver on stage, which, side note, another fun fact, also a community-created character that the devs, Sony, and the actors at Arrowhead Studios seem like they've probably adopted. Might even be in the movie, I guess we'll see. But on that night in December, we got the announcement of the Omens of Tyranny update and release, which saw the addition of the third faction, the Illuminate, into the game. It's just another instance where the developers showed that they understood the gamers and how we would like to see this major update announced. And now, here we are, almost a year later. Did you pick up on it? Have you figured out what's at the heart of Helldivers 2 yet? Time and again, the devs at Arrowhead Studios have been confronted with opportunities to prove how much they care about the ones who play their game. You. You are at the heart of Helldivers 2. Every time I jump into a random match and I hear friends with their mics on screaming and shouting in confusion or cheering together over their successes, dictating what the story of their game is, I see that this game was designed to allow players as individuals and also as a community to direct the experiences that we get to have in this game. It really means a lot that a development team was willing to give us the opportunity to figure out what we wanted and to show what we wanted from our game. And the fact that they listened, which ultimately it allowed us to break free from the normal way that things are done and to show the entire gaming industry a better way to do games. It made the words at the opening of the game more true than ever. Those words: prove to yourself that you have the strength and the courage to be free. Join the Helldivers.